Hello everyone, it's Maggie, the Cheshire Crafter here. Happy New Year to you, wherever you are. Now, you might see I'm in my pyjamas and I'm comfy and I'm cosy in this Twixtmas period. And I wanted to do some hand stitching with my fabrics as my sewing machines aren't working. I'm waiting for them to be serviced. And before Christmas, I bought some William Morris Jellyroll strip fabric, and I bought them from a lady off eBay, and I've bought them 4 times now. So I've got the equivalent of a complete jelly roll. So I want to show you a project using a very traditional fabric. William Morris was part of the British arts and crafts movement, and the fabric looks very traditional. It's from the collection that's in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And I thought this lent itself to English paper piecing. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through some of the basics of English paper piecing. And I'm going to choose a pattern that's easy to replicate with a jelly roll strip. And you can do this whether you're hand stitching or sewing on a machine. This is going to be a long-term project. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a 10-inch block. And I'm going to create a throw that will be 4 10-inch blocks wide by 5 10-inch block length. And then the 10-inch block, once you've got the concept of that, you can turn them, twist them, create a different shape if you like. But once you've got the principle of English paper piecing, you will understand how to do it and how to convert it to another project. This is going to be a long-term project, and it's going to be one that I can do wherever I am. If I keep everything in a small bag, it's also something that you can do when you just want a quiet moment, or it's late at night and you just want to do sewing without the noise of a machine. So it's calm, it's gentle, it's very good therapy, it's good for mindfulness, and it's very good therapy for my shoulder and my hand. So come with me and I'll show you how to begin to create your throw. This will be a project that I'll return to over the year. For my paper pieces, I'm using this old John Lewis catalogue, and I'm using the interior pieces of matte paper. I would say that's about 80 to 90 GSM thick. It's ironic that there's a quilt on there, and I'm cutting them into 2-inch strips across, 1-inch strips depth. That's 2x1 strips. I'm using my guillotine to get an accurate cut each time. This is an X cut, and I can cut 3 layers at a time. Each 10-inch block that I make will need 50 paper pieces. I've bought my fabric off eBay from a seller that sells them in jelly roll strips. So these are 2.5-inch wide times 22-inch strips. That includes the selvage. And she selected this lovely selection. Now there is a directional print. I'm going to lose the directional print on some of these, but the way that my pattern goes. But I've taken photographs of this and I've tested it in grayscale. What I'm going to do first of all is mark my my designs as A, B, C, D and E. And now let's look at my pattern idea. Cut off the selvage, and then for each 10-inch block you need to cut 50 pieces at 1.5 inch. I'm cutting 5 pieces of fabric at once with my rotary cutter. For convenience, I'm just going to keep them together on a pin in order, and out of the 22-inch strip I've been able to get 280 pieces. Using a 1/4-inch seam allowance, each block will be 2x1. So going across, I'll have 5 blocks, 5 rectangles. That'll give me a 10-inch block, and I've got 10 blocks going down. When these are 1 inch, this will give me a 10 by 10 inch block. And I've done a pattern. This is a 5 pattern repeat. So I've done A, B, C, D, E, and then I've reversed it. E, D, C, B, A. And then at the top, I've started with B, C, D, B, C, I don't know whether I've got that right, B, C, D, can't quite get that right, can I? But it means that it gives me a block and a central pattern that'll go down the quilt, and I'll get a secondary design. Let me show you it on graph paper. Now I've collected them all up and I've marked them in columns, and I'm going to be working down each column. I'm going to work down each column first before I sew them together. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. To baste, put the paper piece on the wrong side and allow a 1/4 inch seam allowance around it. I'm now going to finger press, and because it's a good quality piece of cotton and I've got long hard fingernails, I can get a good edge on that. Go to both edges and secure it down. And then I'm going to take a single layer piece of cotton, single thread piece of cotton with a large knot on the end, and I'm going to start in one corner. Hold that in place and push through. And you need a needle that's strong enough to go through the thickness of a couple of layers of fabric and the paper, but not large enough to punch a hole in it that the knot will come straight out. And then I'm just going to use a running stitch, basting stitch, to go all the way around. And I'm going to try and keep my paper piece as flat as I can, because I don't want to distort the shape of it. When it comes up to the corner, make sure that your corner's folded over really well, just like that, and then take the needle right the way through all those layers. I only need to knot at one end. The other end I'm going to leave loose. I'm going to leave about a 2-inch thread. I need to leave something that I'm going to be able to get a grip on when I take these threads out and the paper out of it at a later date. It won't really get in your way. And because I'm doing this in a contrasting thread, it will show up very clearly. It's a good way of using up all your old bits of cotton, actually doing this. Cotton thread, I mean. And that's how I baste. And it looks like that on the right side now. Leave the long piece hanging. To sew the rows down, just take the next piece in order and make sure the orientation is correct. Turn them right sides together. And I'm going to take a single piece of cotton thread. This is Gutterman's cotton thread with a thinner bohine needle. And I've got a knot at the end of it. And I'm going to just catch the edges and loop that together to make a knot at the end. So just so it doesn't come apart. The white cotton, as you can see, is the basting cotton threads. If they get in your way, just flip them out of the way. And as we go along, I'm just going to catch 2 or 3 threads from either side, not quite catching the paper. I don't want to catch the paper in. It doesn't matter if I catch the paper in, I'm not looking to use it again. But I'm just using small, even stitches right the way along. When I get to the middle, I'm going to want to reinforce it again. Just so it doesn't come undone. And to do that, I'm going to do a loop and thread back on myself again. And it's like just putting a knot in the middle of it without the thickness of a knot. So I can feel that it's getting a bit flimsier in the middle here. So to do it, just keep yourself a loop of cotton thread and then take your needle back through it and pull it tight, and you get the equivalent of a knot. I'm going to keep on stitching until the end. Good quality needles, good quality thread and good quality cotton. This will glide through and it will make your work an awful lot easier. I always say buy what you can afford to buy, but I'm finding this a lot easier. I'm finding that annoying that that cotton thread's getting in my way. You find it a lot easier if the thing will glide. I did try basting with the glue, and I found it very messy, very tacky. I didn't like the glue over my fabric through my needle. I couldn't get my corners correct, so I've gone back to the traditional way of basting, and although it takes a little bit longer, I don't mind. I've got time to do it. Now when it comes to the end, I just want to make sure I get the edges in here, and I want to make sure I catch it on camera. I've done this a few times and not caught it on camera. It's these edges here I want to get in, not the fold back of the seams. It's these inner edges. You see what I'm saying there? Those two inner edges, and then I'm going to want to reinforce that again. So I'm going to again loop it over and do the equivalent of a knot without any thickness, and I'm going to travel down to do the last one just by looping it on the edge, just taking it down the fabric and adding the last piece. And you'll see, as I've talked about orientation, I'm going to put the red berry on this side, so I've just got a little bit of variety. I've got two pieces of the same colour together here. Turn them over, start again at the top here, and this actually completes this last row. I'm going to start adding the columns together in a minute. So I've now got the rows sewn, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to sew the columns. I've marked them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no ironing at this point. I've left the papers in place and the basting cotton in place, and all I'm going to do is lay row 1, column 1 over column 2, and as I sew it, I'm going to make sure that I match up the seams as I go down. I'm going to use the same principle, but just keep going from top to bottom till I get to the end, and just to secure it, I'll put occasional loop knots in it, and I'm going to join all of that until I come out with a 10-inch block. Once you've done a 10-inch block, you realise that you can make a cushion, bags, and piece as many of these together, or as few of these together as you want. Don't forget that you can turn this. Now, if I wanted the orientation to change, I can do the next block on its side and pick out these lovely birds. I might do that. It will mean that the design changes completely and it will look different on our quilt. I can put sashing between the blocks. Perhaps a dark maroon would look really nice to separate them between each block. Once you know how to do paper piecing, the possibilities are endless.